You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
This is the great thing about, we've talked about it on Dixieland of the Proletariat. So this is the great thing about unions in general is it gives everyone a voice to disagree with one another and hopefully come to a consensus. But if we can't come to a consensus, move forward with a majority.
That is, you're talking about the differences that union members have, and some of the differences that you and I have. Even there are people that have way more differences than David and I do, and they're still members of the same union. And you can go back and listen to our interview with the nurses from the Pennsylvania Association of Staff Nurses and Allied Professionals, Bill and Joe. Those are two folks. Bill is a ultra liberal type person. He may even be listening right now. He listens pretty regularly. So if you're listening to us, say hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
And Joe.
Yeah, we love y'all.
Yeah, we love him. And Joe describes himself as a conservative Christian constitutionalist, and so obviously they have radically different politics. But in that interview, you can really tell the love and solidarity and like the brotherly love that they have for each other and the respect that they have for each other, even though they have some of these differences. And that is what I think is one of the most beautiful things about unions and unionism, is that it allows people from all different backgrounds and all different walks of life to come together and fight for each other, because
Not
get these wedge issues.
I mean, think about us when we got off the radio with them. It allowed two people with two other people hundreds of miles away that had never. I mean, we got off the radio just in love with these guys. It brings the solidarity together of people that you've never met before.
Right. Exactly. But It is really beautiful. And, like with politics, you get so many of these like wedge issues that people can throw at you to try to divide you from your brothers and sisters and try to make you vote against your economic interests. Like obviously, having a more progressive taxation system is in the economic interest of working people. But you get working people voting against people who would implement a more progressive taxation system, because you get these wedge issues like abortion or gay marriage or whatever the cultural issue of the day is, and you get people hung up on these things. It doesn't have anything to do with them. Like, you don't want gay marriage, then don't get gay married, right? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. But you get people to vote on these issues, and they're not voting on economics. Well, the union, it just takes, like, it really doesn't matter what your opinion on this or that cultural issue is, because you're standing together in solidarity with your brothers and sisters fighting for a good contract. The contract that you have with your company doesn't have anything to do with what your opinion on abortion or birth control or gay marriage or anything like that is. It is just about your paycheck and your health care and your retirement and your working conditions. And that's something that everybody can unite on. And once you unite on those things, you really are able to see, because these are like intimate discussions, right? You're talking about, David mentioned being on strike for 93 days. The decision that you have with yourself and your brothers and sisters on the job to go on strike for 93 days, that is a huge decision. And so you necessarily have to have intimate conversations with your brothers and sisters on the job. Like, can we afford to do this? Is this something that we can afford to do? How much are you making? What's your healthcare situation look like? Are we going to be able to support each other through this strike? These are intimate conversations that you're having with people that you would not have with them otherwise. And it makes them more human. I mean, Joe had said something kind of jokingly about how he had never realized that like liberals were so human, right? That they were so similar to him. And that is really a beautiful thing, is coming together and being able to see the humanity in the people that you're working with and the people that you do the same job as, and that you wouldn't have otherwise. And it's really beneficial for us as a class of working people to be able to come together in solidarity like that and fight for one another, because you're not going to get that so much in party politics or in anything else, really.
No, it's the worst. I mean, really, you look at what's going on in today's society, and look, we give Trump a lot of hate. We give and we give Democrats a lot of hate as well. But you look at what's going on in electoral politics today, and how absolutely, I mean, it's almost to the point where it's psychologically debilitating.
No kidding.
I mean, seriously, if you look at it from like you said, the 3,000-foot perspective, it's psychologically debilitating. And who wants to be involved in this mess constantly? And the union gives you that ability to come together, no matter what. Just like you said, no matter what your ideologies is, we're all striving for the same thing, and that is to take care of our family, to have good benefits, to have good working conditions, to be safe on the job, to be able to retire at a reasonable age.
Right.
A lot of these things that unfortunately a lot of workers are, especially in Alabama, but across the nation as well. A lot of these workers are going to be I mean, look at what's going on at Walmart. Look at the greeters at Walmart and just think this is the next generation is going to be 10 times worse than that if we don't come together and change. Yeah, absolutely. And one of these days we're going to get David is the president of the Machinist Union local down in Decatur, and he's got you can imagine a machine shop in Alabama. There's a lot of not liberal or not progressive folks, right? And you've got a really strong libertarian fellow that's one of your members. And one of these days we're going to bring him on the radio and talk to him about it, because that is just and the majority report listeners are going to love that too. So I mean, that's a wonderful thing. It bridges all divides. It bridges all divides, literally. Yeah, and we got about a minute and a half left. And maybe we can come back on the other side of this segment. We got one more segment to go and talk about this. But I would really like to talk about Labor Day coming up on Monday, and how we can all stand in solidarity. I'm off. Of course I'm off. You're off. And we're getting paid to be off, thank God. But there's a lot of workers, especially retail workers, healthcare workers. There's going to be a lot of workers out there that are not, they're going to have to work.
Right.
And we really need to talk about the solidarity, what we can do as people that are off to get our shopping done today and tomorrow. And don't shop with these employers on Labor Day. Force these employers to start taking Labor Day off and pay their employees.
Right. Do that, and then even more than that, whenever you do go, and obviously, like not every situation is going to lend itself to this, but occasionally you start talking to the people that are serving you. Talk to, if you're in a union, or, especially like if you're in the IWW, like David and I both are, we're dual carders in the IWW, talk to them about organizing on the job, because that's how much more than you not shopping on Labor Day, that is how they're going to get the day off. That's how they're going to get the day off in the future, is they're going to have to organize, and they're going to have a union, and they're going to have to be willing to fight for each other for this, for a day off, and for higher wages and for health care. So talk to them about joining a union. Give them a card. Say, hey, call me. I'd love to
You're listening
talk
to
to
the
you
Valley
about
Labor Report.
Charge upon the land, a population burned up, bled dry. The marginalized multiply and unite to fight.
Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison. I'm here with my co-host David Story. Man, I'm real bad about getting cut off by the brakes. Not good at feeling that out. So, like I was saying on the other side, if the opportunity presents itself, consider talking to those folks about organizing. Or if you know somebody that works in the service industry, definitely, and you're in a union, definitely talk to them about organizing and like that, because that is how the labor power that they have is infinitely more powerful than you shopping or not shopping on Labor Day. Like that does almost nothing. Like that's fine, do that. Like don't shop on Labor Day, but that does almost nothing. The way for them to get higher wages, better working conditions, more days off, sick leave, stuff like that, is to organize. That's really the only way. Theoretically, it could come through legislation, through the government, but where David and I definitely agree is to not advocate for the government doing things, I think is fine, but don't depend on it, don't rely on it, and don't count on it. Because the government, politicians are unreliable. Politicians are unreliable. The government, I think it is the people that work there. I work in the government, right? I'm a federal employee. I think that we're pretty reliable. But the politicians, the people who hold the purse strings, they're not so much reliable. And so, who can you rely on? You can rely on your brothers and sisters that are standing next to you on your job, at your workplace, because those are the people that have historically done. That's where change has happened historically. That is how people have gotten the things that they have, even when it comes from the government. It comes from the labor movement demanding that the government do that, or else, right? Or else power concedes. Like in the interview, John said in the interview, so make sure that you're looking out for that interview. But John from Local S6, he said, he quoted Frederick Douglass: "Power concedes nothing without a demand, and a demand requires the power to back it up." Okay, like you're not going to get anything if you don't demand it, and you're still not going to get anything if you don't have power to back up that demand with a threat of force. Right.
And to clarify what you were talking about earlier, as far as organizing the retail workers and things like that, there's probably a lot of union members out there that has no clue what the IWW is or what wobblies are. So, let's take a second and just say, the reason that we are dual carters, the reason that we originally engaged and you helped bring this branch together in Huntsville was because of the fact that we understand that as business union members in AFGE and in the machinist union, that we don't have the capability of organizing some workers. But through the IWW, we have the ability to organize any worker whatsoever.
Right.
And that's something that needs to be stated. If you're out there and you're a retail worker or a service industry worker or something other like that, and you've always said there's no unions anywhere in my industry, I've never even heard of unions in this industry before, we can get you organized in your industry. We can get a union into your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, like David said, that's what appealed to me about the IWW, right? Like I can't go into a bar as a member of the American Federation of Government Employees, right? and say, hey, do you want to join my union? But as a member of the IWW, I can. The Industrial Workers of the World is a union that will allow any workers to organize within it. It's one big union, and it's a lot. There's definitely a lower bar to entry as far as as far as joining the IWW goes compared to like other unions, and it's easy. It can be easier to organize with the IWW if you're properly motivated, So definitely, if you've thought about organizing and you're like, well, there's no unions in my industry, well, let us know. There may even be business. You may have two options. You could organize with the IWW, or you could organize with a business union. You may just not have heard of it. There are unions in this area that folks would have never known were there. Like I until I met David, I had no idea that there was a machinist union anywhere near me, right? But there is. So definitely like send the page a message if you're just curious, like, can I even organize? You can is the answer. And you may even have multiple options.
Yeah, and you can message us, and that's the thing about it. We're doing this radio station. Granted, we're trying to preach to the masses, but one of the biggest reasons we're doing this radio station is so people will have the ability to contact us. And if we can't get you organized if you're not right for the machinists, or if you're not right for AFGE, we got IWW. If it's something else, we can go to the steel workers. We've got contacts all across the state and nation, as far as that goes, to put you in touch with people that can organize in your industry specifically.
Right. And we don't care what union you organize with. There are some people not. Yeah, there are some people that may be in the machinist union or in the IWW or in AFGE who's like, I'm not going to organize anybody if it's not in my union and it doesn't benefit me. I think there are very few people like that, don't get me wrong, but there may be a few. There may be a few people that are like that. We absolutely don't care. We just want you to be able to have a union, you to be able to have collective bargaining and a collective voice on your job, because that's what's important to us, is building worker power. We're not, David spent tens and tens and tens of hours helping some workers down south think about organizing, and he doesn't get commission on organizing workers, right? We don't get anything for any of this. We have a passion for helping people make their lives better and helping them make the lives of their brothers and sisters better. That's the only reason that we're doing this. That's the only reason that we're in the labor movement. That is the beginning and end of the thing.
Yeah. You want to talk about a rising tide raises all boats. The union is the rising tide that raises all boats. I guarantee you that.
Right. Yeah. It's not lower taxes. It's not making sure that the people who buy yachts can have a yacht tax break. It's the labor movement. It's working people having a voice. It is, it's being able to bargain collectively for your working conditions on the job. That is the rising tide that raises all boats, and it can raise boats today. And that is how boats have historically risen. I mean, seriously, if you go back and look into anything that workers take for granted, any freedom that you have in and from the workplace, it came from the labor movement.
Yep. We got about 10 more seconds, Jacob. Why don't you... I appreciate everybody listening today, especially on this Labor Day weekend. But take us out, brother, and I'll see you soon.
Folks, thanks for listening. And like I said, man, we are so sorry that we weren't able to get those interviews to you. So make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube at The Valley Labor Report, or you're supporting us on Patreon so that you can hear those interviews. And with that, folks, we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.